Grace had lost everything. Now she had a choice: burn it all down or build something new. 3 years after losing everything, Grace sat in Mama Rose's small room exhausted. 3 years of mockery, 3 years of poverty, 3 years trapped in bitterness. But one morning, something shifted. Carrying this rage was killing her. David had taken enough. She wouldn't let him take her future too. "Mama, I want to leave Nigeria, start over in South Africa." "With what money?" Mama Rose asked gently. Grace had no answer, but the seed was planted. Grace swallowed her pride and called Jennifer, an old friend from her market days. "Jennifer, I need to see you. It's urgent." They met at a restaurant. Grace explained her plan: leave Nigeria, start a small fabric business in South Africa, rebuild her life. "I need help, Jennifer. A loan, just enough to get started. I'll pay you back." Jennifer studied Grace's desperate but determined face. "Come to my house tomorrow." The next day, Jennifer counted out cash from her safe. "This is enough for your visa, plane ticket and starting capital. Don't let me down." Grace's hands trembled. "I won't. Thank you." 2 months of paperwork followed. Grace applied for a South African visa, approved after 3 weeks. She bought a one-way ticket to Johannesburg. She said goodbye to Mama Rose, promising to send money when she could. At the airport, Grace stood with one small bag, looking back at Lagos one last time. Somewhere in this city, David lived comfortably in her house. The plane lifted off. Grace watched Nigeria disappear below. "David, you took everything from me. May God judge you." Then she closed her eyes and let it go. Grace landed at Tambo Airport with fear and hope tangled in her chest. She found a tiny room in Hillbrow, dangerous but affordable. She bought small quantities of fabric from wholesalers and sold them at flea markets on weekends. During the week, she cleaned offices at night. Some nights, 1 meal. Some weeks, no rent money. She cried herself to sleep countless times. But slowly, the fabric sales grew. Meanwhile, in Lagos, the cracks begin. David didn't notice at first. A customer complained about late delivery. Another returned fabric saying quality wasn't right. David thought it was bad luck. But complaints kept coming. Returns increased. Customers sent back orders saying they weren't up to standard. Word spread through the market. David's shop wasn't reliable anymore. Customers who'd been loyal for years went elsewhere. Orders decreased. Profits shrank month after month. David worked longer hours, trying to replicate Grace's magic. But he'd been the face. Grace had been the engine. Without her eye for quality, her hustle, her relationships, everything slowly broke down. His savings vanished. He took loans to stay afloat, telling himself it was temporary. 2 more years passed. David's business was dying. He'd burned through everything. Desperate, he made a decision: rent out the duplex for income, move his family to a small 2-bedroom flat to cut costs. Veronica was furious. "We're leaving our house?" "Just temporary," David lied, "until business picks up." But Veronica saw the truth. This was the beginning of his fall. Another year crawled by. The shop finally closed, completely. David sat in that cramped 2-bedroom flat, and the irony crushed him. He was back where he'd started. Actually worse, older, broken, alone. Veronica looked at him with cold eyes. "You have nothing, no business, no money. I have sons to raise. I'm not drowning with you." She took the boys and left. David sat alone and realized everything was gone, not in one night. Slowly, naturally. Without Grace, he'd never sustained what she built. 10 years after throwing her away, David had nothing, and Grace, somewhere far away, rebuilding. She didn't know David was falling. She'd moved on completely. Grace wiped sweat from her forehead, folding fabric at her flea market stall. 2 years in South Africa. 2 years of grinding. She'd moved from Hillbrow to a better place in Yeovil. Her weekend sales were steady. She'd quit one cleaning job. A year later, Grace secured a permanent market stall. Customers recognized her, trusted her quality. Another year passed. Grace paid Jennifer back every naira with interest. "Grace, I can't believe it," Jennifer said over the phone, shocked. "I told you I would," Grace replied. "Thank you for believing in me." The following year, Grace rented a small shop in Rosebank. She hired her first employee, Thandi. Grace wasn't wealthy, barely comfortable, but building something real, in her own name. She never thought about David anymore, too busy surviving, focused on the future. David sat in the cramped two-bedroom flat staring at overdue bills. Rental income from the duplex barely covered expenses. Savings gone, business closed, wife gone. He was 50, alone, drowning. Then his body betrayed him. Persistent headaches, dizziness, blurred vision. Then one morning, David couldn't move his left arm. He managed to call his neighbor, Mr. Adeyemi, who rushed over and found David collapsed on the floor. The ambulance came quickly. At the hospital, the doctor was grim. "You've had a stroke. You need treatment, medication, possibly surgery." David looked at the bill estimate and felt his world tilt. Money he didn't have. Mr. Adeyemi stayed with him those first days, bringing food, helping with basic needs. "David, you need to contact your family. You can't manage alone." But David's pride wouldn't let him. Mr. Adeyemi helped when he could, but he had his own family to care for. Months passed. David's condition stabilized, but he couldn't work. Medical bills mounted. Samuel, a neighboring trader from the market, who'd watched David's business collapse over the years, heard about his stroke and visited out of pity. He was shocked at how far David had fallen. David sat on the edge of his bed, defeated. "Samuel, I have to sell the duplex. It's the only way I can pay for treatment. I have no other choice." Samuel nodded sadly. "I understand, brother. Let me help you with the process." Over the next months, Samuel handled everything, contacted real estate agents, showed the property, negotiated with buyers. David was too weak, too depressed to manage it himself. When the duplex sold, Samuel helped David sign the papers with trembling hands. The money covered medical treatment and debts. When done, almost nothing remained. David moved to a single room in Mushin. Samuel helped him move, set up the small space. "I'll check on you from time to time," Samuel promised, out of human decency. David sat on the narrow bed, thinking about Grace. Where was she? He tried searching online. Nothing. Grace had vanished completely. David whispered to the empty walls, "Grace, wherever you are, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." But Grace didn't hear. She was too far away, too busy building a life David would never touch. Years continued passing. Grace's business grew steadily. Nearly 8 years after arriving in South Africa, Grace applied for permanent residence, approved within a year. Nearly a decade after leaving Nigeria, Grace visited a children's home in Soweto and met Hope, a shy 6-year-old girl who'd been abandoned. "Will you be my mama?" Hope asked. Grace's heart shattered and healed simultaneously. "Yes, baby." The adoption process was long. 2 years of paperwork, home visits, and background checks. But 12 years after leaving Nigeria, it was finally finalized. Grace had bought a small house in Randburg, her primary home. She also purchased a townhouse in Northcliffe as rental property. Standing in her Randburg home with Hope, that first night, Grace felt complete peace. Another year passed. David suffered a second, more severe stroke in his single room. Samuel, during one of his occasional check-in visits, found him unconscious and called the ambulance. This time, David ended up in a government hospital, unable to afford private care. Samuel finally contacted David's village family. They came, saw his condition, and took him home to the village. David spent his final year dependent on relatives, barely able to speak or move. He died quietly at 55. Small funeral, few attendees. Veronica didn't come. No one from Lagos came. David was buried in an unmarked grave, his name forgotten. Grace in Johannesburg never knew. She was too busy living. She now owned 2 properties. Her fabric business was thriving. Hope was 10, flourishing in school. Grace had moved on 15 years ago. David's existence and his death didn't even register in her new life. Grace stood in her home office, reviewing quarterly reports. Her fabric import business now employed 15 people, with expansion into Botswana. Hope, now 12, walked in. "Mama, can we go shopping this weekend?" "Of course, sweetheart." Grace had come so far. 3 properties, all in her name. Her Randburg home where she and Hope lived. the North Cliff townhouse purchased years after she rebuilt her life. And last year, a third property in Rosebank, another rental bringing excellent monthly income. But Grace's greatest pride wasn't the properties, it was what she'd done for her family. Years earlier, after stabilizing her business, Grace had rented a comfortable 3-bedroom house for Mama Rose, fully furnished in a safe neighborhood. Mama Rose no longer struggled. Grace also helped her siblings, paid school fees for her younger sister, helped one brother start a small business, sent money monthly to ensure they never went without. Family first, Grace always told Hope. I forgot that once, never again. Jennifer was at the market buying fabric when she ran into Samuel, the trader who had helped David in his final years. Sister Jennifer. Long time, they chatted, and Jennifer couldn't help but share. You remember Grace, David's ex-wife? The one who left Nigeria years ago? Yes, the woman who built that house. Jennifer's face lit up. Grace is thriving. She's in South Africa, owns a fabric import business, multiple properties, doing incredibly well. She even adopted a daughter. Samuel was stunned. Grace? The same Grace who left here broken with nothing? The very same. The very same. She's made it, Samuel. Really made it. Word spread through the market like wildfire. Did you hear Grace, the one we all laughed at, owns multiple houses in South Africa? The woman who put David's name on her house? She's wealthy now. Grace is a successful businesswoman? The same Grace we mocked? Suddenly, people who had ridiculed Grace for years began trying to reconnect. Old acquaintances searched for her number. People who had ignored her poverty now wanted to catch up. But Grace was unreachable. She had changed her Nigerian number years ago. Samuel couldn't stop thinking about it. Grace had survived. More than survived. She had conquered. He approached Jennifer. Sister Jennifer, I need to tell Grace something important about David. Can you give me her number? Jennifer hesitated, then shared Grace's South African number. Be gentle with her, Samuel. That evening, Samuel called. Grace was cooking dinner when her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Hello, is this Grace? Yes. Who's this? My name is Samuel. I'm a trader from Lagos. I knew you and David years ago. Sister Jennifer gave me your number. I hope that's okay. Grace tensed. What's this about, Samuel? Samuel took a breath. Grace, I'm calling because David passed away about 3 years ago. He had strokes, lost everything, died in his village. I thought you should know. Silence. Grace, are you there? Grace stood in her kitchen, spatula in hand, processing. David had been dead for 3 years. Thank you for telling me, Samuel, she said quietly. How did it happen? Samuel explained. The business collapse, Veronica leaving, the strokes, selling the duplex, the final days in the village. Grace listened, feeling nothing. No satisfaction, no sadness, just emptiness. Samuel, thank you for letting me know. I appreciate you calling. Before you go, I heard you're doing very well. Multiple properties, big business. Is it true? Grace smiled slightly. Yes, Samuel, it's true. I rebuilt in my own name this time. I'm happy for you. You deserved better than what David did. Life gave me better, Samuel. That's enough. After hanging up, Grace stood at her window, watching Johannesburg's lights. David was gone. The people who mocked her were now trying to reach her, not from care but because she had money. Grace felt no need to reconnect. They laughed when she was down. She owed them nothing now that she was up. She turned back to her kitchen, where Hope was setting the table, and smiled. This Hope, her homes, her business, her peace, this was her revenge. Living so well that David's death barely registered. Thriving so completely that the mockery became irrelevant. Grace had won, not by destroying David, but by refusing to be destroyed. Always protect yourself legally, even in love. Never put everything in someone else's name, no matter how much you trust them. Keep receipts, document your contributions, put your name on what you build. Love is beautiful, but legal protection is essential. Grace's biggest mistake cost her everything. Don't let it be yours.